Hello and welcome to another episode of our Brothers Creed podcast,
where we inspire fathers to build the blueprint for the next generation.
We are the Thomas Brothers. I'm Jared.
And I'm Ethan. All right, welcome to episode 2 of our most recent series that is focused on resilience. Resilience is a very important quality that Jared and I both think that is important to not only develop in ourselves, but like our podcast is based off, using it to build the blueprint for the next generation. That's right. So in episode 1, we talked about mental resilience, and we went through a bunch of awesome things, some stories about mental resilience. Today, we're going to talk about physical resilience. And as I was going through these, I was a little, sometimes it felt hard to distinguish the two. Because it almost like takes one with the other, right? And it's specifically physical resilience. It's like if you are able to be resilient physically, it's almost like your body will break before your mind will. And so it's almost like you need mental resilience to get into...
You mean your mind will break before your body will?
Well, I mean...
Most people, I would say, their minds break before their bodies do, right? They're just like, oh, I can't do this. It's too hard. And they underestimate
I guess they give up before they're ready. Yeah, maybe that's a better way of saying it.
You think David Goggins...
I think that...
His body's already toast. Yeah, his mind is what's strong.
Yeah, I think that. I think there are some times where their bodies just give out, and mentally they could keep going, and that might be like injury or whatever else it might be. But from a definition of physical resilience, I had it's the body's capacity to withstand, adapt to, and recover from stress, injury, or extreme conditions. It's not about avoiding challenges, but by bouncing back stronger or kind of more functional after you encounter those challenges. I think, and I'm sure we have some examples and stuff, but I think of like these guys that run these ultra marathons that are like 100+ miles through the middle of the desert. And it's just like, man, that is endurance for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
what about you? What are your thoughts?
No, I think that those ultra. We actually watched a documentary recently about these. It's like a ultra type race. It's in the mountains of Tennessee, and these guys, they'll do these loops like in the woods, just in the mountains, and it's like some of it's on trail, some of it's off trail, and it's like each loop is, I think, a full marathon. And they'll do like 5 of these loops. And they have, I think, like 3 days to do it. So it's just like all night. They're just doing it. Like all night and all day. Jeez. They're just running this thing. And it's like they're in the mountains and they go down, like they draw. And it's just like they're running through the briars and stuff. And it's like all their legs are torn up. It's actually pretty crazy. I forgot what the name of it was, but I think it was on Hulu. It was pretty interesting. About that kind of ultra race. But so physical resilience, I think my definition was pretty similar to yours, and that it's not just fitness, but it's the capacity for your body to resist, adapt, and recover from physical stress, injury, or prolonged strain. So I think there's kind of 2 main parts to that. One is the strength part. And when I kind of think about strength, this is the physical ability. So when I think about strength, I kind of catalog that in maybe 4 different buckets. So one is just raw strength, like how much muscular strength do you have? How much can you lift? How much can you push? What can you do? How much can you carry? How long can you carry a dumbbell for, or groceries from the car to the house?
One trip.
Yeah. How many, what's your grip strength, or lots of different things. What's your bench press? Not that that really matters at all, but like that's the one type. The next one is like cardio endurance. I see a lot of guys who come into the jiu-jitsu gym and they're really, really strong, but they have zero cardio. And they, in the first 30 seconds of a roll, they'll burn out so quick, and they're just wheezing, and they're like, oh man, I can't believe this is, this is so hard. And I'm like, well, that's because you have no cardio. Do 30 burpees a day, and then in 2 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, you'll be fine. And so, but not just that, but also and having the endurance and cardio to run. It's like was it Jason Bourne? He's like, at this altitude, I could run flat out for three-quarters of a mile before my lungs start to burn.
Yeah.
So
I think he says like 15 minutes or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But having that cardio or that endurance is also part of being physical resilient. Mobility and flexibility, super important. And then the last one I just had kind of stress tolerance. So how well can your body handle stress, whether that's cold, dehydration, heat. In the sense of jujitsu, someone like laying on your chest, being able to be calm in that panicked state or someone's over your face and you can't really breathe, so you have to control your breath. So those are like those stress states that builds a resilience. So that's kind of the strength aspect of it. But then there's the recovery aspect of it too, which is how soon can you bounce back after a strain or an injury or that prolonged stress. Sleep is another important part of recovery. Are you getting your nightly recharge? My wife Shannon has a Garmin. You have one as well.
Yeah.
And it says like what her battery is. It says like, oh, your battery is at
your body battery. Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have that? Do you have that?
Yeah. Yeah. And it gives me like my sleep scores and everything else.
That's pretty cool. I think I want to get one of those. I honestly wouldn't wear it much because most of the exercise I do is on the mats, and I can't wear a watch.
You're not going to wear a watch.
But still, it would be good to track my sleep. And then the final one, I think, for recovery is just nutrition and hydration. What are you fueling your body with? So those are kind of, in my mind, the way I was conceptualizing this is just physical resilience is the actual physical part, and then the resilient part is like coming back from those, recovery, and getting back up on your feet. So what do you think about those two?
I really like it. Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of those. I called them like key features of physical stamina was, endurance and stamina. And then I had, repair recovery was one as well. And then actually I liked when you're talking about, it's like adaptation to physical stress. You're saying dehydration and cold and heat. Another one I'll say is like altitude as well. Being resistant to fatigue at altitude. When I was in South America, we went up to this. It's on the border of Chile and Bolivia, and there's the Andes Mountains are kind of right in that area, which is pretty high mountain range, and there is it's the highest natural occurring like lake in the world, and it's at 15,000 feet, actually like 16,000 feet, which is pretty high. Like really high. And I mean, you think like the top of Everest is 29,000 feet. So we're like over half of what the peak of Everest is. And you think of like, I don't know, the Mile High City, that's Denver, right? Mm-hmm. Which that's 5,280 feet.
Yeah.
And so we were 15,000 feet. And whenever we were going up there, we chartered like a bus and we're taking a bunch of us up there. And the bus drivers and the charter people, they were like, hey, like when you get up there, you need to be careful because you are not used to this altitude. And so like when you get off the bus, just like walk slow. If you start to feel like fatigued and stuff, just sit down, just take it easy.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because there was probably 20 or 25 of us, and we were going up there, and we were, young, mostly fit people, and you could
Except for that
tell.
one guy, he was fat.
Yeah. You could tell as we were going up that there were some people that were like, "Oh, my head's hurting," and oh, like they started to feel bad, and like we got all the way up there, and there were some people that were just like physically ill from the altitude. And we spent a couple hours up there or whatever, but there's people that like they couldn't even move, and they were just. And so I got off the bus and I was like, oh, I didn't really feel that different. I didn't feel bad.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna move a little quicker and see what happens. And so I kind of like sprinted, down the road through 4 or 5 steps.
Hmm.
And I remember I got like, I don't know, maybe like 15 feet.
Uh-huh.
And it was like my whole head and like it was just like pounding. And I was just like, oh, geez, like there's like it is, different.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I didn't really think it'd be that big of a difference, but I mean, altitude it does,
That's
does a
crazy high
lot.
too. Yeah.
But what's crazy too is there is these encampments of these people that live up. They're like alpaca herders and stuff like that. Well, they live up in the mountains and they play soccer at that altitude. And there was like soccer fields and stuff up there.
Hmm.
And so, you have these people that are just running around up and down a field like it's nothing.
Wow.
And you have people that like can't even take 2 steps or they're like passing out.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, man, that like resilience is just awesome. And I know that you could probably build up to that, right? Or
Hmm.
maybe you couldn't. Maybe some people's bodies aren't made for that. But you could acclimate and
Yeah. Well,
but it was just really cool. Kind of the body, a lot of people were born and have lived up there their whole lives. And so the body's ability just instinctually, naturally to adapt and become resilient to its environment was kind of a cool example.
yeah, which makes you wonder, like, so I think that as an environment, like when we think about creating an environment for our kids, right? Or an environment where, you could say micro environments. I think that as dads, and I keep telling my kids this, I say my job as a dad is to get you ready to face the world on your own. And so when you're ready to do that, part of my job as a dad is done. And so giving them micro environments of difficulty or struggles where they have to be resilient, it's I think that's critical. And you've got to do that because if you don't do that, then your kid doesn't know that they can be strong or they can be tough. If they don't ever had the opportunity to be tough or the opportunity to be resilient, then how are they going to learn that? So creating those micro environments, whether that's, like I'm trying to teach my oldest how to mow the lawn. And I know, Ethan, you've taught your oldest how to mow the lawn. He'll just mow the
Yep.
whole thing, and you're just like sitting inside and you're drinking a soda, and you're like, oh, thank you. Also wash the car, and he's like,
We're
yeah, Dad.
we're starting to try to learn the weed eater.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So I was telling my son, I was like, I was me and Ethan used to do a lawn business when I was in high school. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. He's like, how much money did you make per lawn? I was like, well, back then I made like $30 a lawn, but nowadays you could probably make $50 a lawn. He's like,
Except for that one guy is
$50?
15, we way undercharged him.
Yeah, we way undercharged.
That was a
We
mistake.
underbid. That was a mistake. Yeah, yeah, that was. We did like 3 seasons. We mowed his lawn for $15, and it was like, and he would only have us come like
What's every like 3 weeks? It's
so,
like
so
oh,
long to twice as
dude.
long. Yeah, but I was kind of showing my son, and my oldest is probably personality-wise the least interested in mowing the lawn out of any of the kids, and so sometimes I'm a little bit harder on him and to push him outside of his comfort zone to say like, okay, this is how we mow the lawn. Oh yeah, so he was like, oh, $50, that's a lot of money. I was like, yeah, but you gotta be able to mow the lawn. Good. Which is funny. I said that because the next day, this neighbor kid 2 houses down, who's about a year older than my son, he walks down. He was walking around, just kind of walking around with some papers in his hands. I was like, hey man, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna put up some flyers. I was like, oh, you are? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I want to mow lawns. I I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, how much you charge? And I looked at this flyer, and it was just all handwritten. It was pretty cute. And I was like, well, let me ask you a question. If you're gonna ask the neighbors here to mow their lawn, whose lawn are they gonna look at to see how well you mow a lawn? He's like, mine. I look over at his lawn. It's like all overgrown, not mowed, weeds everywhere. I'm like, dude, your lawn isn't even mowed. I was like, maybe you should do that first and then go pass out flyers, and then people can see how good of a job you did. And he's like, yeah, that's probably true.
That's funny.
But yeah, so just trying to work with my son, trying to create that thing, and it's different for each one of my children, and the way that I create those, moments of struggle. And in fact, this week we did a challenge that you have to do something hard, and so for me, it was introduce myself to 2 new people at work that I don't know, and get to know them. So I already did that. I already did my hard thing at work, and then my wife, she's doing a 10K this weekend, which is something she's never done before. So that's her hard thing this week. And then the other boys are one of my sons, my 7, or no, yeah, he's 7. He said, I'm going to do, we have like some little weights, and he's going to take the 5-pound weights, and he says he wants to do 100 curls with the weights. And then he's always like, Dad, look at my muscle, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, it's getting bigger, but you got to keep working out. And then my next oldest son said that he was going to run a mile with my wife. And then my oldest son was really, I don't know what to do. I said, how about you just meet somebody new at school? And then come back and tell me who this new person is. So each of them had different things. Some of them were really excited about doing something hard. Some of them were not so excited about doing something hard. But I kind of explained to them in that growth happens through doing hard things. It's like one of the quotes we had. I think we had it in one of our. We definitely covered it in our best speeches episode. It was a while back. I think we might have had it in a intro at some point, but the moonshot speech where Kennedy says that we do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Which I always think about that, and doing things simply because they're hard. And it's like seeking out things that are hard. It's like the opposite of what your nature tells you to do. And there have been times in my life when I've really taken that to heart, and I'm like, you know what? That's kind of what motivated me to do my master's degree in data science, where I was like, man, what's something that would be really hard? And I remember when I was in my undergrad, I was like, this whole coding thing, I hate coding. I'm not interested in coding. And then later, I was like, okay, I'm really good at like kind of the analytics side of things, but I don't know coding very well. And so I was like, well, what would be hard? What would be something hard that I could do? And I was like, well, I could, do a master's degree in data science. And so that was one of those things that I just was inspired by that speech. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something because it's hard. And that builds confidence, whether in yourself or whether in your kids. And that, in that case, it's more of physical. We're talking about physical resilience here, but that, as you become resilient, you become more confident in yourself. So,
Yeah. At the beginning, we were talking about kind of the connection between mental and physical resilience. And, we kind of said it both ways, that sometimes sometimes people give up mentally before their bodies are done. And then sometimes people, their bodies break before their mind is done and they can't go any further. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from a Rocky song, where it says it's from Rocky 4. I think it's Burning Hearts or something like that is the name of the song. But it says his body cries stop, but his his body says stop, but his spirit cries never. And so it's almost like that's like mental resilience, right? But I think that a strong mindset can help someone push through physical pain or injury. But on the flip side of that, a healthy, well-conditioned body has reduced amount of stress. It can help improve focus and give confidence in the face of challenges. So it's like the more resilient somebody is, then the better, the more physically resilient somebody is and prepared will allow you to, express more mental resilience as well. I kind of I look at it as, um, one of the things for me is when I when I don't move very much. I wouldn't say my job is super active, right? Um, when I don't move very much, I'm just sitting at a desk all day, and then I come home, and then I sit on the couch, and then you're sitting in the car for a couple hours a day, and then it's just you just sit, and then you go lay down, and then you wake up, and then you do the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just my body just gets like it just gets stiff. It's like stuff just doesn't move. Um, and it's kind of like what's the saying? Motion is the best lotion, right? It's just like you got a sticky knee or you got a bad shoulder. It's like, well, you gotta just like you can't just if you just hold it there and you don't move it, then it's just gonna get stuck. It's gonna atrophy, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I've actually noticed that recently, and kind of in waves throughout my life, right? I kind of got into, I had lots of back pain and stuff, struggle with that. And then once that kind of subsided, then I got into training for triathlons and kind of went through a lot of effort where I was moving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it was like I would run a mile and I'd be extremely sore. And it's just like, oh man, But then I got to a point to where I would run 6 miles and it would be no big deal. Um,
Yeah.
and so, and then I kind of came off that high, and then things kind of got stiff a little bit again, and now I've been going and working out with a group of guys here locally in the mornings, and it's like it's a mixture of like cardio and calisthenics and push-ups and burpees and this and that or whatever, but I've just noticed that just like the up and down of like, you're up and doing jumping jacks and then you're down doing sit-ups and then you're up and, doing a couple burpees and then you're going to do some push-ups. And it's like that up and down
Mm-hmm.
of just movement in the joints just really helps your body, or my body at least, to become more resilient, like just recover faster, better. I think that's one reason why kids are like kids' bodies are very resilient. Um, because they're always like, I look over and I see my 8 year old like sitting there playing with some magnets and stuff on the floor, and he's like sitting in this like crouched position that's like I couldn't even pretend to be able to sit in like flat-footed crouched, like just sitting there like it was the most comfortable thing in the world. And
Like
like
the
flex
Asians, like the Asian squat.
yeah, like flexibility was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not even a question in his mind. And because
Hmm.
they just do that. They're always up and down and around, and they're moving around. I remember whenever you and I were kids and we would go out and we'd jump on the trampoline for hours,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like literally hours we'd jump on the trampoline. It was just jump and jump and jump and jump.
And we were kickboxing and punching and kicking each other too.
Yeah. And then, it was a couple months ago, I went out and I was jumping with the kids on the trampoline. I jumped on the trampoline for like 5 minutes and I was exhausted. I was just like winded. And I would say I'm pretty decent right now from like a cardio standpoint,
Yeah.
but it was just like the jumping and the this and that. It was just like, oh man, this is exhausting. It's like my body wasn't used to it. But the kids, they go out there and just jump like
Oh,
it's nothing.
totally. Yeah. That's
So,
funny. No, well, I think it's important too. Like one of the things that you got to consider is what are you training to be resilient for, right? So, like
yeah,
I
I
mentioned
think it's,
earlier, like these guys who are like weightlifters, they're training for weightlifting. They're training for static movements of heavy weight. Then they come and do jujitsu, and then they're like, man, this is I don't have the haven't trained for this. Or like a sprinter versus a long distance runner. Working on your explosiveness, a marathon runner doesn't need to be explosive. A sprinter does. And so it kind of begs the question, what is it that you need to be resilient like for? And I think that like day to day life stuff, I mean, barring any specific sports, like you mentioned, you're doing, triathlons or running, or there's different sports that you can do. Obviously, train for those. But then day to day, I think as dads, as just as men, we need to be hitting a variety of things. Like I mentioned, flexibility. I think maintaining your flexibility, maintaining your ability to, crouch down or bend over, and these kinds of things is super important. And then strengthening those muscles, like your back muscles and your legs and your thigh and your quads and stuff, and it really helps you strengthen, some of those ones that go out easy. If your quads and your legs are weak, then your back might start hurting because it's super tight. So I think just generally being able to do these things, and that's the thing what most people kind of train for when they go to the gym. They are training for strength, and then they will sometimes hit cardio depending on what you're doing, and sometimes they will skip leg day, which you're not supposed to skip leg day. So I think
I just go in and do biceps every day.
Yeah, you just do the over the top, the arm wrestler exercise every day. What age is it appropriate to show your kid that movie, Over the Top?
I was just thinking that. I think our oldest could probably do it.
Or those old like Van Damme movies,
Yeah, Bloodsport.
What's that one with Yuri Boyka? What's one's Undisputed?
Undisputed, but those are not.
Those are
those are a little bit more. They probably should wait till they're 25 to watch those.
Those are great, man.
Yeah, with Jason Atkins.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah. So one thing I was thinking is I was kind of going through and I'm like, well, how can I or anyone at that build physical resilience? And you'd kind of touched on some of these, but I just think there's a couple that stuck out. Just regular exercise in general, whatever that might be. I mean, if you're training for a certain sport or whatever else, that's good. But I think it's kind of the big ones are just to build general strength, and then cardiovascular health, some sort of endurance, and then I think joint stability and kind of maybe some flexibility. Knowing core strength, stuff like that. Is important. I was listening to this one prepper guy, and he was talking about, all you guys, you think that, you're buying all this ammunition and you're buying all these food and stuff for food stores for the apocalypse and everything. And he goes, but you weigh 450 pounds. And it's like, if
food storage.
if the apocalypse ever does come, there's going to be a need for dynamic movement and potentially running away from people and stuff like that. Like if you don't have your health, then what's the purpose of all that other kind of stuff? What if you had to throw a backpack full of stuff and carry your two youngest children as you're running through the woods? Like, would you be able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, well,
yeah,
that's good. So, regular exercise, nutrition, just kind of fuels recovery and everything else. Getting a good diet, sleep and recovery. You talked about that one. Progressive stress exposure, in a kind of in a regulated manner, like a purposeful exposure to stress. Whether that's, I would probably say gradual, right? You don't want to say, I'm going to get into running and then go like run 13 miles tomorrow morning. Like that would just kill you and it would kill your progression. So just a gradually challenging your body, exposing it to harder and harder and harder things, whether it's endurance training or altitude or cold exposure or whatever it might be. That just kind of, I think that doesn't just strengthen those specific things, but I think that just drives like your body to be able to adapt to things quicker. And then the last one is mental conditioning. I think if you have a good mental state, you're able to visualize and focus. You can manage your stress. It will push your body beyond its limits, which sometimes that's where you do the most growth is when you push beyond that comfort zone.
Hmm.
So being mentally conditioned enough to say, I think I can go one more, or, I can push a little bit harder. I think that, will build physical resilience.
Yeah, I like those things. And that's kind of one of the lists that I had is similar things. One of the things about the mentality, I want to speak to that a little bit. Uh, a lot of people have heard of David Goggins. He always says, who's going to carry the boats? One of my favorites is Ronnie Coleman, the great.
The king.
He was I don't know how many time Mr. Olympia, but at one point
It was like 7 or
they
something.
told him to not get. He was too big, and he needed to shed some muscle because he was too big. Anyway, one of his things that he would always say is he would always say lightweight,
I was gonna say lightweight.
lightweight, yeah, buddy. And then he just he just like that mentality of just like this is easy. I'm gonna knock this out easy.
Yeah, I've heard that guys that worked out with him was just like he was like fun to work out with. Like he enjoyed it. Like it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
yeah. It's like, man, I'm just living the dream.
So, but like that positive self talk, that like mentality of overcoming. One of the things I saw a video of Michael Phelps, and he was watching a video of some Australian swimmer, no name swimmer, and she's like, "Oh, I was so happy that there were no Americans there because I was so tired of hearing the Star Spangled Banner." And he's like, Michael was like, "What?" He's like, "If I was racing against these people," he's like, "I would listen to this comment every single day, and it would fuel me to become an absolute monster to destroy these people, And it's like, so it's almost like he's using haters' comments to fuel this like defiance within him. I think I heard that, David Goggins like listens to what trash people say about him, stuff people say about him while he's running just to like fuel.
Yeah,
his,
he like reads out like mean comments and stuff, and he like listens to it while he's exercising.
I mean, there's different ways to do that. I think if you have like a real defiant bug in you or like that kind of spirit, and that will fuel you, then use it. Use whatever you can, but that's to build that mental resilience, whether that's just having fun with it, being like, this is easy, I got this, or whether that's like, they doubted me and I'm going to push through. Whatever method gets you going and keeps you going, use it. So I also had one example of resilience, and this is from like a commercial that I saw that was really cool. So there's a commercial about it, and there's an old guy, and he's kind of going into his garage. He walks in there with a cane, walks into his garage, sets his cane down real softly, and he's kind of moving some boxes out of the way, and his wife's kind of looking over, and she's like, "What is he doing in there?" He never goes in there. He's moving this stuff out of the way, and he takes this like tiny little like kettlebell, and he like reaches it out in front of him, and he just like lifts it straight up, arms extended straight out. He just lifts that kettlebell straight up, and then he just keeps doing it, and then it like kind of shows over progression over the next couple weeks, maybe months, where he keeps going out to that shed, and his wife keeps wondering, like watching him, like, what is he doing? And he gets the kettlebell and he just holds it down at his waist, arms extended all the way out, and then he lifts it all the way up to about where his head is, and the kettlebell gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he doesn't need his cane anymore. And then at the end of the commercial, he goes over to his son or daughter's house, and he's for Christmas, and he's like, "Hey, we brought the star for the Christmas tree," and he gives it to his granddaughter, and he reaches out and grabs her by the waist, and he lifts her up exactly how he'd been lifting that kettlebell up to put the star on the tree. And so I thought that was a perfect example, because it's like he was training to become resilient for exactly what he wanted to do, which was lift his granddaughter up, arms extended out. He wanted to have the strength to lift her up and put that star on the tree. So I think that's such a good example of training for what you want to do and to be resilient for that thing.
Yeah, I love that story.
I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen that commercial?
Yeah, yeah. Whenever you're telling, I was like, oh, I've seen this. I've seen that commercial. Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
for sure.
Let's see. I guess I have one other thing that that we. I think that mental resilience, like, is just in the last comments. Sometimes it's not just being like tough or being strong. Sometimes it's just getting over overcoming an injury, or getting back to your full strength. That can be resilient too. Oftentimes people who go through really difficult challenges. I think, did I mention this last episode about like people who go through cancer? How often that? Did I mention that last time?
I think you did.
I don't know, but I may have. But that's a physical resilient thing. I mean, heck, you're basically radiating your body and killing cells in your body, and you're bouncing back from that. And so, whether that's recovering from an illness, whether it's just being in shape enough to walk around the neighborhood with your kiddos, and being able to do the things that you enjoy, that is, I think that's kind of a baseline. But as men and people who want to improve themselves, I want to be able to do a little bit more than just the baseline. But if working up to the baseline is what you're doing, then that's good too. Work to where you can get, and then from there set new goals and work beyond that. So everybody has different seasons in their life too. I think that you need to have a little bit of grace with yourself as far as like, what season are you in? Are you, especially I think for women, not so much for men too, but not. I think it's much more impactful for women, and like with having kids and things like that. When you have a little baby or when you're pregnant, it's hard to do, some things. I mean, it's not impossible, but there's different seasons where you have the ability to do more and less. Like you now, Ethan, are able to go out and exercise in the morning. In fact, you've been taking your kids with you. Have you been taking them in the mornings? Before school?
They've been coming out with me
before school.
Yeah, they'll get up at 5:00.
How many days a week do you go?
It's usually 3 or 4.
Oh, like during weekdays, or you do?
Yeah, during
Saturday?
weekdays. Okay. Yeah, they'll set their alarm and they'll get up at 5:00, and we'll leave at 5:15 and meet up at 5:30, and we'll get out there, grind, and then we'll get back at about 6:30, and then my one son will shower and get his stuff together, and he gets on the bus at 7:15, and then my other one, he'll go back into bed for 30 minutes or so, and then he'll get up and grind. And
that's great, man.
Yeah, they love it. So
very cool. It's a great way to build that resilience, and also set an example of just how you do it.
Yeah, we went out a couple weeks ago, and it was pouring rain. And I mean, it's in the middle of the summer, so it wasn't like super cold or anything, but it was pouring rain. And that's kind of the one thing is with the group, it's just like rain or shine, we're going to get out there. And it was a running day. It was a cardio day. And so we were just like, well, there wasn't many people that showed up, but we were there, and my 2 boys were there, 10 and 8. And we ran like 3 miles, 2.5 miles, 3 miles, in the pouring rain. And we all kind of circle up at the end. And one of the guys that's there, he goes, "Man, my kids, they would have looked out the window and seen it was raining, and they'd have been like, nope, I'm not doing that." And he's just like, "Man, those kids are, wusses." He was like, "My son's a wuss." I was just like, "Oh man, that kind of stinks, right?" I was like, "Dude, you got to set the example, man."
Well, he's out there in the rain. He is setting an example.
Yeah, well, I guess he is out there, and so it's just like, but I think a lot of it's mentality too. It's the night before I was talking with the boys, and I was like, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and they were like, "Oh, okay, does that mean we can't go?" And I was like, Psh. I was like, "No, man, that means that that means it's going to cool us off as we're running, and so it was fun. It was fun, but yeah, I think this has been a great conversation around resilience. I have a couple other examples. but I think I'll save it for our next episode. So the next episode we're going to do is around resilience in Hollywood, right? So Jared and I will go. We'll pick some clips from movies or different things that we think show that resilience, whether it's mental resilience, physical resilience, or both, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll
Oftentimes
kind of
it'll be both.
yeah, we'll share those and talk through those. But this has been eye opening for me. There's a couple things that I'm gonna do. I specifically think I need to focus a little bit more on sleep and recovery and nutrition. That is something that I think I need to lock in a little bit better on. I think if I can get that a little bit better dialed in, um, it's not always fun waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you and your wife are night owls. You don't go to bed until 1 o'clock in the morning, and so it's like from like
Yeah, that's
one,
hard,
two,
man.
3, 4, 5. I mean, the 4 hours of sleep is not very many hours of sleep. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so I think I need to dial that in a little bit more. And I invite all of you listening out there to do the same. Pick something from mental resilience or physical resilience that you want to expose yourself to, that you want to dive into, become more resilient in, and expose yourself to that. Go to bed a little bit earlier. Maybe wake up a little bit earlier. Maybe go on a walk. Go on one additional lap, right? Just push yourself just a little bit more every day.
Yeah. And with that, let's build our creed together.
All right, let's do it.